All right, hey, and welcome to Glue Friday. If this is your first time on the broadcast, I'm Sporty King, duh. But Glue Friday is actually born from Glue Wednesday. Glue Wednesday I started about 3 years ago. It was a broadcast that I do on Facebook Live, and I started because so often people say that Wednesday is Hump Day. That's the colloquial expression that Wednesday is Hump Day because old school we only looked at the work week, Monday to Friday, and the weekend as two separate things. But now with staggered times, work time, then it's everything. So I decided that Wednesday is actually the middle of a traditional 7 day week, no matter what day of the week you work. And so Wednesday is the day that keeps the weekend and the week beginning together. So it's the glue. And that's why I decided it puts us right there in a prayerful mode. So glue is GLUE. God's love undoes everything. And so Wednesday is the glue because what we need to do is not have a hump day and get over, but we need to have a glue day and keep it together. And sometimes it's easier to get it together than it is to keep it together. Now, what I do, by the way, especially if you're joining the broadcast, I always come on 5 minutes earlier. If there's a different set of school of thought, I say come on 5 minutes early, and I recommend that you do that if you do a Facebook Live and give Facebook the chance to do what they call build the audience. Now, some people say, well, you shouldn't. It looks like you don't know what you're doing. No, I say that you may be doing something already and then you get a message, Sporty King is going live. You say, oh, that's right, I meant to catch that up, but I got to finish this. So see, that's why I come on 5 minutes earlier, so that you get that message, and now you got 3 to 5 minutes to finish it. And so, hey, Amy, you're my first person on. Good to see you. I love you. Yeah, so that's why I do it. That's why I come on 5 minutes early. We got less than 3 minutes for today's message for those who are going to be on live. But again, if you're watching it as the tape, that's why you can know. So even if you're watching it as the videotape, you can pause it, but you can also say, wait, I got another 2 or 3 minutes. I can go run and get a glass of water. But you may miss a message in there because I don't wait to start sharing my wisdom and joy and pleasure for the time to start. I love you too. And see, I get to get my shout outs in early. So that's another thing that I like to do. I also make it an interactive broadcast. So what I've done is because I'm using StreamYard, so I want to familiarize people with technology as well. We've got less than 2 minutes for today's message, but I'm using a technology called StreamYard. And but the thing with StreamYard is that it's a time delay. And as well as I can't type in, I can't respond to comments. So I open my second computer where I get to see my Facebook page, and therefore I can see comments. I'll see your comments on my live broadcast, but they come in a tape delay. And so sometimes, I can look at what's actually going on my other computer and see the comments, and then that might remind me not to go forward with what I've already got in terms of my presentation. So we got less than a minute, and I'm on a little later today. Normally my broadcast is from 1 to 1:45, and it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And that's another thing I forgot to mention, that Glue Wednesday is where it all started, where I would strictly do Wednesdays. But when COVID hit, I expanded my message to Monday and Friday. So that's why I now do Glue Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So if you're wondering, I thought you said Glue Wednesday is the middle of the week. Glue Friday, that's what Glue Friday is, an extension of Glue Wednesday. Because the thing is, shouldn't we be finding ways to inspire people all week? Oh man, what a blessing that would be. Okay. What's up, Cedric? Man. Oh man. Yeah, I don't mind showing your name, and so we can see that wonderful profile picture that you're carrying as well. Biden Harris 2020. Amen. God bless you. Okay, but let's get started with today's message. And it's like I say, when I give my shout outs, Amy, one of my great mentees and mentees, mentors, because the roles always change, from Chicago. And Cedric, one of the people who was always supportive and helped me with my career with the Leaders of Tomorrow, which is the teen chapters of the National Black MBA Association. And talk about a gentleman that works with our young people and blesses them. That's my guy, Cedric. So I'm glad to see that he's on board. So let's go with today's message. As you saw, what I did on Wednesday, I had a message called HELP, HELP, and it was health, energy, love, and and patience. My acronym for help. And what I did is I said to what can you do to help? How can you be more healthy? How can you control your energy? What's going on with your love, with your life? How's your patience? And so what I did is, again, like I said, I always like to make it interactive. So I had people put in the thread what they thought the acronym HELP could stand for. And so that's why what I've decided, when they put it in the thread, I instantly reacted to it. I said, yes, that could mean that. But that's part of my gift, being able to play with my vocabulary on the spot, because I always inspire people: control your vocabulary. Don't let your vocabulary control you. That's really important right now as we go through tough situations where we're inside our homes and we're with people more on a more daily basis than we have been, more hours of the day. So communication is important. One of the things, as we'll hear today, the number one communication skill is not speaking, it's listening, but it does require speaking. So really choose your words carefully and control your vocabulary. When you control your vocabulary, what are you also doing? You're actually also controlling your stress, because sometimes you're not blurting out how you feel. You're getting yourself together and expressing how you feel, because no emotion is wrong. So whatever emotion you're going through right now, whether you're angry, whether you're sad, whether you're elated, you're excited, every emotion is legitimate. It's what we do with the emotions that can sometimes put us in a bad spot. So don't let anybody deny your emotions, but more importantly, don't you deny your emotions. But today's title is, I call it Help from You, because see, on Wednesday I gave you my definitions of help, and then I had people put in the thread their definitions of help. So that's what I'm going to do, is give them shout outs, and I've got 4 definitions that people gave me about help. And so here comes the first one, and it's HELP, healing eternal love peacefully. Healing eternal love peacefully. And one of my good friends, my homeboy that I grew up with, Haas, I call him Haas, but his name is Jose Valencia. He's not on yet, but he'll be on. But Haas gave me having eternal love peacefully. And so, like I said, on Wednesday, when he posted it in, when they dropped it in, I made comments, but now I had time to think about it, and I want to add another little level of the message to it. So I take having eternal love peacefully, and what I do is I add my affirmation of peace. Peace, Peace, placing eternity above chaos and evil. Placing eternity above chaos and evil. See, right now, how can you be helpful to somebody? Well, you have to know where your faith is. What are you doing in terms of your faith? What type of a friend are you? See, that's how you're going to be able to help somebody. And that's why when he said having eternal love, and that's why I call it placing eternity above chaos and evil. See, so it's peacefully, having eternal love peacefully, and that's placing eternity above chaos and evil. You want to get rid of chaos and evil, and you want to have peace. So what that also is saying, well, the reason I equate that to faith, obviously, is that, your faith placing eternity above chaos and evil. In other words, if you know you're going to heaven, as most people tend to. And in fact, as most people apparently do, when you go to the funerals, no matter how bad the person was, they say that the person is going to heaven. All right. So if you know that if your faith says that my trust and belief in God is that I'm going to rest on high with him at my time of death, well, that's eternity. So I can deal with the stuff that's going on right now. The trials and tribulation, the COVID, the storms. I can deal with it because I know where my spirit will rest. So that's why I say peace is placing eternity above chaos and evil, because you can rest and relax. If you know where you're going, you can rest and relax and enjoy the ride. God didn't promise us a clear, smooth path. In fact, he made sure that you recognize, especially whether you read the Bible or hear about the Bible, there's a whole lot of trials and tribulations and a whole lot of rocky roads from the heroes in the Bible. So therefore, how would you think that the heroes in the Bible have a rocky road, but you get a smooth path? It doesn't happen. So it's so important that we recognize that we have to know that where we're going so we can be at peace with ourselves. So also, so right now, how do you place eternity above chaos and evil? How do you have eternal love peacefully? Well, one of the things you can do is, like I say, control your vocabulary. What are some good things that are happening for you right now? See, think about some good things that are taking place during your quarantine, your closure, your being in the house. What are some things that are going to make that are making a difference for you? What you say that? And I throw those up there when I see preach. And and see, and another thing that I add, and preach, this becomes a key right now. Do you practice what you preach, or do you preach what you practice? You're going to get a lot of advice and words from people right now about what you should do. And so that's one of the things that I make sure. I've been in my speaking business for over a quarter of a decade now. And I always say, I don't practice what I preach. I preach what I practice. And you've heard me say it before, choose your messengers carefully and know that you're being carefully chosen as a messenger. So what type of advice are you giving people? And where are you getting your advice from? Be careful of what you get from the news. The key that I say, that I learned it from my pastor, Stephen Furtick, here in Charlotte. He says, I don't watch the news, I keep up with the news. And so you see the difference right there? I don't have to sit and keep watching the negativity, because the news doesn't change that much. You get the same negative story you get the same negative story on every channel, but you get a different spin according to the channel. So who's your messenger? And that's why you need to be careful about who you're going to listen to, what they preach. But more importantly, are they preaching what they practice or practicing what they preach? Another thing that you can do in changing your vocabulary, right now we hear a lot of people say, man, I hate this Zoom and I hate being locked up in the house. How about I prefer not being locked up in the house? I prefer being live. See, hate is a strong word, and it's not like you really have a choice. I hope you don't think you do, because one of the choices you do have is to wear your mask. Like they say, wear your mask, not for yourself, wear it for the other people. Wear your mask. God's plan is what it is. And so that's where we are in this world. What's up, Cindy Feldman? Good to see you. All right. So it's good to know that. So thank you, Haas, for having eternal peace, eternal love peacefully, because God's love is eternal. But are you enjoying it? Are you resting your spirit to enjoy the blessings that God is putting into your life, rather than focusing on the trials and tribulations that he's putting there, because he's putting it there to lead you to your testimony? Then I also had a good friend of mine, Roger Carroll Rogers. She put in HELP, healing every leaning posture. Healing every leaning posture. And it was funny because when she put it in, I reacted to it. I thought, oh, wow, that's so cool, because my sister's pastor has a thing where he always says lean. His theme is lean into something in terms of your faith. And I said, so Roger Carroll, are you sure you were saying leaning, or did you miss the R? Did you mean learning posture? And she got back and put, no, I meant leaning. And I loved it. So because what I did is I now went and I went and Googled, okay, let me see what Amy is clearing up. I meant anytime. What you clearing up? Glad to catch you anyway. See, good. I'm going to put the vocabulary. Glad to catch you anyway. But you know what? Anyway and anytime are both fine. Ooh, and that rhymed. Anyway and anytime are both fine. Glad to catch you. Thanks, Amy. But what he said, I went and Googled leaning. And what I decided to do, leaning is actually, it actually talks a little bit about posture. But leaning is to incline, deviate, or bend from a vertical position. He leaned back in his chair. It's also to cast one's weight to one side for support. Lean on me as we walk. So that's what the leaning is about. And so I took Roger Carroll's comment about leaning, and I decided that we need to be conscious of posture. We need to be conscious of poor posture. And right now, that comes into play because one of the things I will say to people, I say cheers, and then I spell it CHAIRS, because that's where we're rooting from right now. So it's a double meaning. Instead of saying cheer, CHEERS, cheer, and then instead of saying rooting, ROOTING, there, I'm rooting for you, but we're rooting because some of us are rooting stuck to those cheers, and that's where we're applauding for one another from right now. But that can compromise your posture. So be really conscious, even now, as you're comfortable, is how you sit. Every now and then you want to sit up, put something behind to give yourself the back support. That makes a difference. Again, when we're talking about helping people, you can't help anyone. This is the base. You can't help anyone until you help yourself, which is why I had the H's for health. Excuse me. So take care of yourself. Watch your posture even as you're sitting. Your posture is still important on your Zoom calls because people can see you sitting there doing this, but people are watching you a lot more closely right now. Our communication is 93% nonverbal. So people are watching, 58%, 55% is how you look, 38% is your tone, and 7% are the words you use. So that 55% is how you look, and that could be your posture right now. Here's some things that you can do here are some symptoms of poor posture. So I thought that would be a good thing to bring in there. Healing every leaning posture, right? So rounded shoulders could be an example of poor postures. Having a pot belly can be, even though now that's a tough one for some of us guys, because I always say I got somewhat of a pot belly, but I call it a keg. So I may not have a six-pack, but I got a keg. Who you inviting to your party, the six-pack or the keg? Kegs last longer, party hard. Okay, but a pot belly, bent knees when standing or walking is a sign of poor posture. So see, you can still be conscious of these things as we're going through this. Your head that either leans forward or leans backwards could also be a sign of poor posture. Back pain, poor posture. Body aches and pains, muscle fatigue, and headaches. All of these are signs of poor posture. And so, symptoms. So right now we could be healing every leaning posture by being conscious of our posture. Let me see. And then speaking of posture, what did Amy say? Did your mom correct you when you were sitting hunched over as well? Yeah. Sit up. Your mother sit up, especially sometimes at the dinner table. All right, where you're trying not to eat, so you're hunching over instead of eating. And so so thank you for bringing that up, because moms, again, if we go back to talking about where we're getting our preaching from, where we're getting our message from, a lot of us get our messages from our moms or our parents. Okay, mother, father. I know my mother and my father, my two most quotable people in my life. Just about everything I say, they could be the source of so much of it, including how I accept someone else's opinion as my source may depend on how it connects to what I heard from my mother and father. See, this is a great time to be conscious of you, to really get it together. But what am I going through? Why do I do certain things? All of that stuff makes a difference, y'all. So really start to use this time to get focused on how beautiful and wonderful you are as a person. But I still want to go back to healing every leaning posture and say that I decided to add a poem to that. And the poem I want to read is called Giving a Stand. See, you think of it, posture, stand. And it's from my book, I Found Out I'm Living, an Affirmation of Life. And I'm going to tell you how you can get a copy of this book as we get to the end of the broadcast. But this is called Giving a Stand. So it's not necessarily totally about healing every leading position, but posture. But just as I told you about symptoms of poor posture, that's why I'm calling this Giving a Stand. But now we have to get creative. This is where I say to you, control your vocabulary rather than allowing your vocabulary to control you. You have to recognize that sometimes when you're a speaker, a lot of times right now, especially if people say, I'm missing the energy I get from my live audience. As a speaker, you are not there to get energy. You're there to deliver energy. So therefore, what you have to do is recognize that if sometimes you're getting missed signals on energy. So you may say a word. When I said posture, someone thought about how you stand. Someone thought about how you sit. Someone thought about your position. What I take this posture on this. Okay. So, excuse me. That's why I say control your vocabulary. And I decided to make posture move over into standing. Even though this poem is called Giving a Stand, but we're not really talking about standing up. See, being creative about your vocabulary. But why do I also bring that up? Because when I talk about getting your energy from your audience, sometimes you are such an effective speaker that something you say gives someone a blank look, a blank stare. And you think, oh man, I lost this person. Let that be a victory. Maybe you lost them because you took them somewhere on a journey based on something you said. You took them somewhere, like what Amy put in the chat about, did your mom tell you to sit up instead of hunching over? See, hearing about that makes, oh wow, my mother used to say that. And so sometimes when you take someone on a journey, their facial expression, because didn't we just say that nonverbal skills, 55% how you look. You see how it all comes together? Their facial expression doesn't seem like they're now paying attention to you as the speaker because they've gone somewhere else. And again, that could be a celebration, that you allowed them to be creative enough, that you were allowing yourself to be creative enough to take them on a journey. So you lose them for a minute and know that they're going to come back and thank you for the trip. So this is called giving a stand. You see, you can't always take one. Because see, that's me. I take a stand. And again, this is the posture. I'm taking a stand. No, so this is called giving a stand. You see, you can't always take one. Yet your opinion must be expressed so that what becomes key is the fullness of your source. For what will happen when your voice is heard? Will many follow you and thrive, or find themselves begging to stay alive? See, it takes us back to what Cedric said about preach. Have you done a power check lately and found a hush come over the room when you spoke? Would you switch places with me right now, or can you feel me enough to give me a smile? And don't just smile, breathe. Breathe and let that breath settle you down to ask another question. Will the people who love you most desert you when you decide to give a stand? You see, you can't always take one. When you give a stand, will you tap into a place within yourself that you hadn't felt? A place flushed with light, exposing emotions of professed blackness. Oh, come on. You know the blackness I'm talking about. Not the Stevie Wonder living just enough for the city, New York, just like I pictured it getting to sell blackness that has led us from one generation to the next. Excuse me, with only the faces changed to protect the names of the innocent. You see, I'm talking about I'm dealing with and talking about the blackness of ignorance. Ignorance that gets you mad enough to call someone a blind MF. You know, not knowing whether they're male or female. Because what has happened in their lives is that they've chosen to block out, to be blind to what has happened in their lives. So they find the need to treat people as the demons that haunt them and conjure up memories that justify their lust for revenge. You see, their ignorance is so strong that they have no clue what it might be like to give a stand, because you can't always take one. But if people like you who've decided to give the first step and listen to what we have to say, choose to give the next step and do what you have to do, what we've chosen to give you tonight will not fall upon deaf hearts. Hearts and spirits unafraid of the challenge of personal belief and commitment. You see, when you decide to give a stand, what becomes key is the fullness of your source, because you might find that your life becomes immersed in questions. When you give a stand, will you be able to answer them? So I hope you see the imagery in that, in terms of giving a stand, talking about your posture. Where do you stand on certain issues? And see, even when I don't, I prepared what I'm going to say, but I love to look at the synchronicity. Look how the messages go together. And see, that's why we always have to realize always have to realize we have more in common than we have in separation. And so Cedric happened to mention preaching. That's giving a stand. Amy mentioned, your mother and any way versus any time. That's the words you use when you give a stand, when you take a stand and you defend someone. The poem talks about political views, religious views. All of these things are places that we take a stand, and that's your posture on something. And so you want to make sure that you know who you are, so that when you express who somebody else is, then when you are express who you are to someone else, you will lead them down a good path. So that's why I use give a stand in terms of Roger Carroll saying healing every leaning posture. And now Haas is on there. Haas, Jose, the greetings. Yeah, that's Haas, y'all. Jose. And so I'm just going to go a quick right back to just say, Haas, we gave you a shout out because we used your having eternal love peacefully, and we got your name scrolling, and I took that and I connected to my acronym peace, placing eternity above chaos and evil. So thank you for that. So let's move on to the next person that gave me something for H, and that for help, and that's Ramona Hopkins, who gave me having energy to listen to people and having the experience to listen patiently. Wow. Look at those two different things. Having energy to listen to people and then having the experience to listen patiently. See, you have to have, and if you're going to help somebody, you're going to have the energy to listen to them. Because as they tell you what they're going through, some of it is going to sound stupid. Right? Aren't we going to be judgmental? Well, such and such happened, and then somebody's, and you may, oh, come on, I don't believe you let that not, and then bam, we jump into giving advice. No, have the energy. No, I'm going to listen to this. I'm going to keep my energy up and pay attention, but then I'm going to have the experience to be patient and let them say all they have to say. Sometimes we're so excited about helping someone and eager to help them that we want to get to the giving the advice part, when in fact they didn't really want full advice. They may have said they did, but what they wanted to do was talk it out. And we talked about venting on Wednesday as well. And I remember Vic putting me in. I appreciate when people just let me vent. Yes, and sometimes they don't know. They may think they want your advice, but they just need to talk it out. So have the experience to listen patiently. Listen to what they need. Don't always jump. I know I've had it where, where I wanted it, and I wanted advice from a friend, but for me to get the advice I wanted, I needed to set up the story. And so when I start to set up the story by saying, look, this is what happened. I don't want you to misunderstand that I'm feeling this way, but this is what so-and-so did. And then they jump right. Oh, well, I think you're holding against them because, and I'm like, no, wait. I just need to set it up so that you can see the relationship before we get to the part where I want your advice. All right. Okay. Well, the message from Ramona. Yeah. Right. Thank you, Ash. Give Ramona some love. Yeah. I don't need you to jump in and give advice. I need you to be patient enough to let me set up the story. Because think about it. When you're feeling pain from someone, it's usually, and I think usually, I don't have statistics on it, but it's a good friend or a relationship that you've had a while. You don't really get hurt by someone you just met, because there's no no commitment, but there's what's the word? There's no track record between you, so there's really not a lot of hurt. But if you've got someone who you've been, and we'll say dating, but also a coworker or a good friend, and it's been years, investment is the word I was looking for. There's nothing invested into the relationship. All these years y'all have been at this level, and then suddenly they do something that makes you backtrack and now question everything else that has happened, because wow, wait, this is how you felt. So how long have you been feeling this way? And it's almost like I really don't want to ask how long you've been feeling this way, but it's a tough conversation. Because now what I'm going to do, I have to admit, I'm going to be judgmental. I've done it. And I've suddenly said to myself, I said, wait a minute. So I know that this person didn't just today suddenly come up with, this is how I feel about you. Wow. So when I said that thing to you last month, when I did this last year, the way we were talking about such and such 5 years ago, is this how you were really feeling? Come on, it's really hard. So that's why it's difficult to sometimes get advice from someone and to give it when you want to help them. So really have the patience to listen to what they need you to say, and may find out that maybe they don't need you to say anything. All right. So, but what I want, the poem that I decided to connect to that is called "I Have to Listen," and that one's from my book "I Found Out I'm Dying," a celebration of life. And it comes with an introduction that walks us into the poem. And so as we think about, because what did Ramona said, we have to have the experience to listen patiently. So that's why this poem is called I Have to Listen. But I introduced it by saying, a friend came to me to help him with a choice he had to make. His marriage was falling apart. And looking inside himself, he saw the need to do a better job of listening. I wrote him a poem called I Have to Listen. And so this is a poem that he's writing to, and by the way, we sat and I wrote the poem for him to his wife as something that he could use as a way of starting a conversation, or at least read it to himself and think of how he wanted to start a conversation. I have to listen. Attempting to block out the silence of my days without you, I listen to the roar of a motorcycle's engine, and I rebuke its ferocity, imagining instead the sound of your heartbeat against my temple. Attempting to block out the loneliness of my nights without you, I hear the scream of a distant siren. Instead, I listen to the rustle of the leaves, the footsteps of a spider. Ignoring the siren, I recreate the sound of your breathing in my arms. Suddenly, in the midst of imagination and recreation, I hear your cry for understanding and attention. And I am reminded of this sentence I serve without you. And I realize I have to listen because you have something to say. I need to listen, and I will. So, and then I go on to say, did I save his marriage? I'll never know. And I never seek credit for that outcome, because what's important is the self-realization. See, what was important was that he had to recognize that he needed to do a better job of listening to his spouse. And so he said, well, here's my commitment. Instead, yeah, I hear the fire engine, but I am so tuned into listening to you that I can hear the sound, the footsteps of a spider. See the imagery that you have to have in it? That's the beauty of poetry. And that's why I love it when I meet young poets, and I'm always happy to encourage them to share their poetry and the beauty of their words. But that becomes the key, is what kind of picture can you paint with your words? And how important is it for you to listen? Oh, okay. Oh, giving alive. I will get a bolt out of listening. A bolt of lightning. And see, so even as we say, and this is my good friend Linda Marie Miller, who is now one of the semifinalists, y'all. Pray for her. She's one of the semifinalists in the Toastmasters International World Championship of Public Speaking. She'll know week after next. Okay. So, but yeah, I always know that you are giving alive, because she, and this is what I hope you are doing. I thank you, is for you have the option to put, yes, let me know when Sporty is live. And so that's what I was saying to those of you who may be coming on the broadcast, but those of you who come on live, you make sure that you build, let it build the audience for you. And then Ramona giving a shout out to Haas to thank her. And see, this is what we do. This is what we do, is that we have just family here. Okay, and then they go another one of my sisters, Pat Jackson, Hazel Eyes, and Hazel Eyes is not a real last name, but that's her pretty eyes that she has. That's Pat Jackson. So I go back to talking about how important it is. Oh yeah, go on, Haas. Thank you. Give congratulations to Linda. Yes, thank you, Linda. So So listening and another one, and is another reason I went on and focused on Linda when I finished that is because Linda and I are club mates in Toastmasters, not in the same club, but we're in Toastmasters International. And one of the things that Toastmasters teaches us is that listening is the number one communication skill. So that's why I said, oh, good, I'll click on to Linda while I'm talking about listening. There's always synchronicity. There's always a connection. And this is also what I was saying to you about how you never know how something you say will make someone's face in the audience, you'll take them somewhere. There's the connect. You've always got a connection, y'all. But you have to have a positive mindset so that you can know that there is a connection. That's why my company is called The Top Line. How I feel affects other people. Know that you have an impact. We're all an important piece of the puzzle. And so you have an impact and you touch people. And when you touch them, they'll say, thank you, thank you. Right on, guys working the switches. Hey, thank you, love you, my sister. That's my homegirl sister. Yeah. See, that becomes the joy. And you know what I got to tell you right now, that I'm just thinking of this, and some of you will be on the broadcast as well. But right now we got Haas and Pat, normally Vic is on here, but quite a few people that I grew up with. And that's one of the challenges in our lives are the people closest to us. They say the hero comes from afar. The voice of wisdom comes from afar. A lot of times it's the people who are close to you who don't see you as a good messenger or someone that they value. Remember, Jesus couldn't do his miracles in Jerusalem where he was born and raised. Was he? No, Nazareth. Okay, because they say, oh, isn't he just the son of a carpenter? Isn't that Mary's son? See, yeah, so they were so familiar. So I embrace and value Haas and Pat and Victor, when they come on, people who grew up with me, because that is sometimes the last people who are willing to give you your props. And again, I thank y'all for giving one another props because we have our new family here on Facebook. So listen to one another. But more importantly, if you're going to be helpful, you need to listen to yourself. And as Ramona says, listen patiently and have the energy. And you know what? Let me go back to that energy thing again for a second. Because have you ever had somebody, all right, I'll listen. Now, come on. See, that's the nonverbal. Oh, okay, I'll listen. No, okay, yeah, I'm listening. See, active listening means that you are paying attention to the person. Not, okay, you telling me, yeah, okay, yeah, uh-huh, and they on the cell phone. Yeah, no, actively listening. That's the energy. Give that person your as much undivided attention as possible. I don't push people into cliches and force them to do something. Give them your undivided attention. It's hard. I multitask, and it's hard to get my undivided attention. But it's possible, and it's respectful, and when it's necessary, then I have to put what I have on my agenda to the side and make sure I'm giving it to them. Right now, my nieces and nephews are important to me. If they need advice, think about it. Your kids, your nieces, your nephews, your mentees, if they need advice, won't you stop what you're doing to pay attention to them? There's all kinds of analogies, y'all, that we can use so that we can continue to be the best listeners, because each of us has to listen. So thank you for listening to my message today of help from you, because those were the four contributions of how different ways to look at help from three of our family members. Haas gave us having eternal. I got to get Ramona out of there. Haas gave us having eternal love peacefully. Roger Carroll gave us healing every leaning posture. And Ramona gave us having energy to listen to people and having the experience to listen patiently. So if you like, and then I shared my poems with you. The last one I shared was I Have to Listen. That's from my book, I Found Out I'm Dying, A Celebration of Life. Speaking of listening, I like to show how, let's get what Haas says there. Patience is the key to listen to a person. And it is. And patience is such an important key to living our lives. We have to be patient, again, with ourselves. I'm always going to bring it back to you. You have to be patient with yourself. We may think we're impatient with another person, but think about it. What is your impatience connected to? how they're making you, how their action is impacting you. Oh, yeah, I'm impatient. They're taking too long. See, so you're impatient. I don't have time to wait. You're impatient with yourself. Let it be about you so that you can be about helping others. See, not a selfish way, but a selfish. Yeah, I'm a part of the problem. I'm a part of the formula. So what is my part? If I'm going to always wait for somebody and they're going to always be late, why am I going to continue to wait for them and then complain? How about I say, you know what? I won't wait I'll meet you there. Okay? If that's their MO, you have to make decisions, y'all. So let's make decisions. But again, I found out I'm dying, a celebration of life. Right now, what happens is we get caught up in the headline. See, the headline is I found out I'm dying. But look at the colon and the subtitle, a celebration of life. Right now, the headlines are grabbing us. That's what the news is for. They're grabbing us, and we're not listening to the subtitle. So I found out I'm dying means that I know that from the day I was born, physically, I've been dying. Get over it. One day you won't be here. So the book is not about dying. It's about celebrating life. It's about living. I know that one day I won't be here, so I'm going to celebrate my life while I'm here. Some people say they have a bucket list. I have a live it list. What's on your list of things that you want to do before you die? Since you don't know when you're going to die. And I also like to say right now, this is the way it is going to be. I have to live as if this is the way it's going to be until the day I die. Since I don't know when I'm going to die, if I die today, this is the way it was. So I decided I won't spend those last days being in a funk and complaining. Okay? So that becomes the key. So a celebration of life. And then the second book, that was where I have to listen. The book that I shared the poem, Give a Stand, is from I Found Out I'm Living. An affirmation of life. It's the sequel to I Found Out I'm Dying. I know I'm not going to be here one day, so I'm going to live, enjoy my life. And then I said, wait a minute, my spiritual self says, I know I'm living, I'm enjoying my life. So I'm affirming this gift of life that God has given me. And that book is that's my remake and my new book. Just got it yesterday, and I got a sale on it. I've only got 19 to sell. And what happened is when I published it, and this is I'm self-published, and you know me, I don't worry about lying, as that I forgot to put page numbers on it. So so I got my first shipment, and I'm glad I only did a small shipment, and I don't have page numbers. So I'm going to sell those for $10. The book costs $14.95. But I'm going to put them I'm going to post them on my website later today, and they'll be on sale, 19 of them. So it'll be a collector's item of the book without page numbers. Even though the table of contents is there, that doesn't affect the beauty of the poem. But you won't be able to turn to that page. And I don't mind saying that to you because I think it's hilarious. Life is about moving forward, y'all. And that's why I'm saying I found that I'm living. I'm affirming this life because God gifted me to put those poems in that book. And that's what's more important. Meanwhile, if you'd like a copy of either of the poems that I read today, email me at sporty@sportyking.com. And I will send you a PDF, a free PDF copy of that poem, as well as a sample of the book. Okay? So no worries about that. And then the book will be at sportyking.com. So you can always go there and support me with my products and my message. Definitely share the message with someone else so that I can continue to deliver the message as I need to. All right? And then lastly, recognize that I've got my seminar coming up on Zoom next Tuesday, Masters of Change, Embracing Success's Challenge. See, success is a challenge. And so you have to, the reason it says guidance, because I took each word of change. Success is about change. And so I took each word in change, each letter in change, and attached a different word to it. The C was for choices, H for hardships, A for accomplishments, N for negotiations. And now we'll be talking about the G for guidance. How is the guidance in your change affecting and impacting your success? So we're going to talk about that, but we're going to add some other G words. We're going to talk about the grace. We're going to talk about the growth. And so that makes a difference. And so, and we got a comment there from Pat Jenkins. Hey, Pat. All right. How are you? Blessed and aging well by the beat. You got that right. And thank you for bringing that up. In 2 weeks, I will be 65. Yeah, I will be on the Medicare charts. All right. So I'm aging well. Why? Because God is in my life. And then when people, oh, you don't look your age. I said, yes, I do. You have to now redefine the age. Because now you see this is what 64 and 11 months should look like. So that's what be who you are. People who died years earlier than you. So why aren't you thanking God that you didn't die at that age? Why aren't you celebrating? And I'm not throwing off, that's other people's problem that they died. No, that was God's will also. And so you have to find ways to enjoy it. All right. So it's hard. So you're laughing with me, my home girl. That's right. I ain't worried. Look, I'm not worried about a thing. So let me close this out with what I want to say to you. August. This is what August is. August. Always understand that God understands. Stay tough. Have a good strong hand because the weak cannot get through. So God understands, and that's what the glue is all about. GLUE, God's love undoes everything. I thank y'all for joining me on the broadcast. I'm going to look because this is on a time delay, so I don't cut you off in case there's any other comments. There being none, I see Haas has always got as wonderful. Later, sport. And yeah, see, she let me say y'all something. See, she knows me long enough to take the Y off of sporty. Little things like that. Maybe I'm going to talk about that maybe on Monday, talking about nicknames. By the way, Monday's broadcast is also going to be at 1:30 because I have a Zoom meeting I have to attend. Take care, family, and stay alert and wear your mask. All right? Over and out. God bless you. Ciao. Oh, there we go. Hey, Deborah, look good for 65. I remember when. That's right. Right. Yep. Because we go back. That's right. Amen. Cool. In fact, I was at a meeting last night, and the guy said his hair is bald, and he's older than me, I think. He said, "Well, Sporty, you can't tell how old I am." He said, "You got old." And I said, "No, this is rent-a-gray." All right. This is rent-a-gray, and I just put it on to make sure I look older. All right. I'm gonna end the broadcast and then go on over to the feed. All right. I love y'all, and I want to definitely leave it with that. Love you, Pat. Appreciate you.